Hello, I'm Craig Patrick. The Department of Veterans Affairs is lashing out at federal inspectors and Congress. Deputy VA Secretary Sloan Gibson told Congress that criticism of the VA is overblown. So Sloan Gibson is our special guest, and we'll ask him to explain what we found in our investigation of forgotten heroes. They popped champagne, booked limos, and spent more than $6 million on 2 conferences near Disney.
Let's take a look at how good a time you actually had.
They had helicopter tours and executive suites and concert tickets and spa treatments. They threw dance parties and ran up $760,000 in unauthorized charges.
Is this the best conference ever?
It's unforgivable and it's unforgettable.
It's just a bureaucratic mess.
And they told a damn lie.
My goodness, what the heck is going on here?
I could have got better care if I took him to a veterinarian hospital.
Long wait times being covered up, cooking the books. This is wrong. This is outrageous.
But we've uncovered lingering problems and new accusations in our continuing investigation of forgotten heroes and the war at home. When soldiers doused the jungles of Vietnam with Agent Orange, our government told them it was safe. Then as their health broke down, they learned it was toxic.
We just, would play like we would be playing with water hoses,
Keith Brown's joints have decayed, and he says the government he fought for has betrayed him.
I just kind of laughed and thought, well, oh yeah, same old, same old.
We first met Keith and Cindy Brown in Polk County, where they told us how he struggles just to see a VA doctor. Then they followed us to Tampa because they wanted to reveal something else.
I can't believe that they're treating people like this.
This Vietnam veteran has been through 19 surgeries, has a heart condition, bad hip, artificial shoulder, and 2 artificial knees. And as part of his pain therapy,
And they had him going up and down 5 flights of stairs.
They put him on stairs until he collapsed.
He was in a group of people that were half his age that were active duty. He just went down.
Then later he had back surgery that took an awful turn when they put him through an MRI machine with a metal fluid container on top of him.
Well, as soon as he cranked the thing up, pop, and blood comes all over me, all over my pants, all over everything, on me.
They say he spent that night in a pool of blood.
Next morning, my pastor come to visit me, and he said, oh my God, what in the hell happened here, What did you guys do?
That was late last year, after the VA scandal exposed poor care and excessive wait times, after the president and Congress promised change.
This is wrong. It was outrageous.
I don't know of an issue more serious than this.
How do we get veterans the care they deserve?
Working together, we set out to fix it.
After they set out to fix it, the U.S. Office of Special Counsel slammed the VA for not punishing misconduct that poses a serious threat to the health and safety of veterans. A 4,000-page review revealed significant flaws and a culture of fear. And records showed the Regional Benefits Office in St. Petersburg has overpaid some vets, shortchanged others, while some like Wes Thompson still wait.
No accountability for them. You proved to me. And then they don't believe you. That's the thing.
Here's your commendation from the Secretary of the Navy.
That's right.
When we met Wes Thompson nearly 2 years ago, he showed us his letters and records and stripes from Vietnam. But to the Department of Veterans Affairs, he was nobody.
My file is this thick. And they lost it twice.
The records, plus the service medals and commendations for serving in Vietnam, they said did not mean you were in Vietnam.
That's exactly right.
Since then, the VA acknowledged he was in Vietnam, but he's still waiting for his benefits for exposure to Agent Orange.
I was told 2 different times, we're going to interview you, and the last time they said we're going to do it in July, and that's never happened.
He's been caught up in red tape for the past 5 years.
I didn't get nothing.
Meanwhile, Keith Brown is now traveling farther to see a doctor than he did before the reforms.
In all total, I think it was like 170 miles.
Plans to give him and others more flexibility may have backfired. Now, instead of driving from Winter Haven to Tampa, he goes to a closer clinic in Lakeland, where they send him back home to Winter Haven with a referral to drive right back to Tampa.
I'm disgusted that they're treating anybody like that, much less our veterans.
A former VA insider from Tampa Bay said he can put some of that in perspective because he told us he has something to confess. Our veterans served and sacrificed to uphold our values and defend our nation. But then when they needed help, our nation left many of them to suffer and die.
Why do they do this?
Records show 307,000 veterans may have died waiting for access to VA health care.
They just let you down.
And by waiting for access, we mean they could not even get enrolled in the system.
Total betrayal from our government.
And vets who do get enrolled say the wait times to see their doctors are ridiculous.
They gave me an appointment like 6 months down the road, but before that 6 months got there, they would call me and say, well, we've had to cancel because of something, whatever.
And when you listen to veterans like Keith Brown describe the runaround,
about a year before you get the actual appointment.
And then you compare it to what the head of the VA has claimed.
Our average wait times are 4 days for primary care, 5 days for specialty care, 3 days for mental health care.
Something does not add up.
Oh no, we don't ever do that.
Well, Nick McSwain says he knows what they're doing because he used to do it.
I used to do the same job that the people that are answering those phones are doing. They were basically directing us to pretty much go exactly opposite of what the regulations state.
McSwain says he quit his job as a VA scheduler in the Tampa Bay area earlier this year to clear his conscience.
It's possible that I could be responsible for one of those people's deaths and not even know it.
McSwain said he was trained to log when veterans want to be seen, but when those desired dates did not match up with what was available, he said his managers told him to stop.
When it's more than 14 days difference, it pops an alert on those supervisors. And what the supervisors were doing, not all of them, what they were doing, they would come, hey, why'd you put that as the desired date? Well, that's what the patient wanted, that's how we were trained. Oh, well, no, don't do it like that.
After the VA scandal broke last year, revealing deadly delays across the nation, McSwain says his managers told him to stop generating those wait time alerts. He says they told him to ignore the veterans' requests, book whatever's available, and claim that's what the veterans wanted, even if it's months down the road.
When it says, what is the patient's desired date? Instead of using that date, we use the date of the appointment that we actually give them. That way, it shows no gap.
And he claims veterans who complained had to wait even longer.
Vets that should have been seen like at a top priority passed over because of the way providers feel about them. Like, oh, I hate that guy. Oh, that guy's annoying.
And in the call centers, McSwain said his former coworkers made them wait even more by evading the hold alert.
They've implemented a system to where if you sit on hold for too long, it'll give you the option to request a callback. Right before the recording would get to that step, the clerks would pick up the phone and put it back on hold and hang it down again, and it resets that timer.
And he says veterans' consults to see specialists piled up until they disappeared.
Literally pushed in a drawer?
Yeah. There's been times where stacks of consults have disappeared, and people, where'd all the consults go?
Again, he claims this all played out after the VA promised to change its ways and restore our trust. And as he thinks back on his time as a VA scheduler, Nick McSwain breaks down in tears.
For them to come back here and be treated like that at really the only place that they have.
Because he cannot stop thinking about the ailing vets who trusted them.
Oh my God, how could you do that?
Well, the VA stressed that it has improved since the scandal of last year and since McSwain quit. And the department provided data showing wait times have in fact gone down. You'll find the stats, plus a detailed Q&A section on VA issues on my Facebook page. You'll also find records showing how veterans may have died waiting for access to health care. Look up Fox 13's Craig Patrick on Facebook and follow us for VA Response, extended interviews, and prior Forgotten Heroes programs. Coming up, we'll show you how the VA has been holding up benefits for Tampa Bay area vets by wrongly declaring them dead.
In fact, ironically, after I was dead, they called me up and reminded me that I have an appointment next Wednesday.
And we'll show you how federal policy is dashing wounded vets' hopes of starting a family.
It is really hard to not know if we're going to be parents.
And Washington will respond to what we've uncovered. VA Deputy Secretary Sloan Gibson will join us and answer our questions. Mike Ricker is a disabled veteran who depends on his VA benefits to live. So when his check didn't arrive, he called the VA to find out why it was late. Turns out they canceled his benefits because they said he was late.
That's when the lady informed me that my benefits have been suspended because I was deceased.
He tried to explain that he's still alive, but they just kept going in circles.
Well, it says here you're deceased, and it's like, well, obviously I'm not.
He says they went back and forth 4 times, with the VA repeatedly telling him that he's dead.
Did you ever fear that you, in fact, might not be alive?
No, I was pretty sure I was alive. I actually woke up feeling pretty chipper that morning.
And after the VA office told him he can't get benefits because he's gone, the VA clinic called to ask him when he's coming back.
In fact, ironically, after I was dead, they called me up and reminded me that I have an appointment next Wednesday.
I'm not dead.
Well, it felt a little like it was like a Monty Python moment.
I'm getting better. No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment.
Did the VA ever send condolences to your family?
They didn't get any letters, no.
He later found out the VA had marked him as dead back in June. Due to a clerical error, the government thought he had died in a car crash. So it kept sending checks for the next 4 months, then cut him off.
Even though you had died in a car accident in June, you kept getting your checks?
Yeah, which scared me.
Scared him because he feared it could take much longer for the VA to bring him back to life.
Well, there's obviously checks and balances that are missing.
And we discovered he's not alone.
This is the 6th case in the Bay Area in a little over a year. Obviously, we need some answers from the VA on this.
That's 6 Tampa Bay area veterans who reported this to Congress. The VA hasn't said how many others they may have cut off and declared dead by mistake.
Obviously, it's a lot more than 6. It could be in the hundreds. I want to know what the answers are.
Congressman David Jolly says he'll press the VA for solutions. And shortly after we called Mike Ricker, the VA called him to tell him they know he's alive and they'll restore his benefits.
You've got somebody sitting at a desk who simply clicks a mouse and drastically changes somebody's life.
Well, Congressman Jolly says the VA secretary has taken responsibility for these problems and promised to fix them. We'll ask VA Deputy Secretary Sloan Gibson about that and other problems we've found in a couple of minutes. But first, we want to show you something else that's burning wounded vets. And this one's on Congress. Alex Dillman met his future wife, Holly, at Starbucks. She waited on him, then he waited on her.
I had gone in there a few times to try to get her attention, and she wasn't having it, so I eventually got a job there to get to know her.
They dated, then married, then set up the baby's room with a crib, books, and little stuffed lion.
I saw it in the gift shop, and I got it and put it in here.
But more than 4 years ago, their lives changed forever. The Army sent Alex to Afghanistan, and a roadside bomb punctured his lung, shattered his legs, and severed his spine.
I woke up, and my wife Holly was next to my bed.
They spent some 2 years in the hospital, and he went through 24 surgeries. And now that Alex is home and retired, they dream of starting a family. But they just discovered the VA will not cover the procedure they need to conceive.
You know, it's really heartbreaking because it is really hard to not know if we're going to be parents.
Congress banned in vitro fertilization coverage for retired wounded vets.
I do feel angry, and I do feel a little let down.
Congress banned it more than 20 years ago, before the technology advanced and became more effective. Now leaders in the House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats, say they want to lift that ban, but they have not taken action.
And it's really hard because we've already sacrificed so much.
Under current law, in vitro fertilization is covered for active duty military, so Alex and Holly would get it if he was still suffering in the hospital. But now that he's retired and in better shape to raise a child, he can't.
After the injury, I was in no place to start a family.
The holdup in Congress appears to come down to money. Our government is racked in debt, and efforts to offer more benefits to veterans have stalled.
This isn't just for me and Alex and about us. This is about a much larger picture. They assume that they're going to be taken care of. If they get hurt, they are going to be taken care of.
All right, let's bring in VA Deputy Secretary Sloan Gibson. Mr. Gibson, thank you for joining us.
You bet, Craig.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being best, how much progress has VA made in the wake of last year's scandal?
I would say that we're at least at a 7 or an 8. We've still got work that remains to be done, but we're making huge progress. You'll recall that a lot of the issues that were raised were around access to care, and there's been a dramatic improvement in that access to care.
And how many people have been fired this year at VA specifically for inappropriate scheduling practices?
I can't give you a number for inappropriate scheduling practices. I can tell you that over the 14 months or so since Bob became the secretary, that more than 2,000 have been removed from federal service. The much more important issue here has to do with sustainable accountability. I came to VA from the private sector. I never encountered an organization there where management and leadership excellence was characterized by how many people you could fire.
We know of at least 6 cases in the Tampa Bay area where veterans had their benefits disrupted because they were wrongly declared dead. How many times is this happening across the nation? What specifically is causing this? Is it a technical glitch? Is it human error? And what are you doing to fix it?
Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often. It has happened there in the Tampa area. We get information from multiple different sources about the status of veterans. And unfortunately, in too many instances, one instance would be too many, we've gotten information that suggested that a veteran was deceased, and we've taken action immediately to restore benefits to those veterans or to make sure that their benefits are not disrupted. In the meantime, looking for the underlying systemic problems that are giving us that bad signal.
The VA will not pick up the bill for in vitro fertilization for vets with spinal cord injuries after they retire. Should that change?
It's a matter for legislation, and as a matter of public policy, I would hope that Congress would address the particular issue.
So on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how much progress VA has made in the wake of the scandal, you gave it a 7. We want a 10. What would it take to get all the way to 10?
It's being able to give us the resources that we need in order to be able to match it up to the demands of veterans and give us the time and the opportunity that we need to change the culture and change the business processes so that we consistently deliver the kind of health care experience, by the way, that veterans receive in Tampa, Florida. I was in Tampa roughly a month ago and happened to have with me the former Surgeon General of the United States, who looked at the care that we were delivering in Tampa, particularly in polytrauma, and remarked, this is world-class health care, what you're delivering here in Florida. You know, why don't we go do a story about that? Be a great story there in the Tampa market.
Mr. Gibson, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Craig, thank you.
Coming up, the push for more reform and what more can change. Hello, I'm Craig Patrick. Throughout this series, we've shown you how veterans fighting mental illness were left behind.
5,600 veterans are committing suicide every year.
We've met widows like John Viavances in Pasco County who waited with her husband Billy for mental health services that never came.
He would lay down on the ground and just scream his head off. He didn't know what else to do. 3 times he asked for help. By the time I grabbed the phone, call 911, I'm getting by the front door and suddenly I hear bang.
He blamed the VA for giving him lip service in his suicide note.
I just fell to the ground. I just couldn't believe it.
We've also shared stories of vets who died of cancer and other diseases due to delays at hospitals and clinics. And we followed a lot of veterans like Natasha Taylor, who could not get her benefits due to a backlog of claims.
I have paid, honestly, $3.
She served 3 tours in Iraq and was wounded, sent home, but since the VA fell behind on her benefits, she fell behind on paying her VA-backed mortgage. So the VA bought her house from the bank and evicted her.
They can actually keep the home if that home meant that much to them, and it meant more than me as a person who owned and earned a home.
Again, follow us on Facebook. That's Fox 13's Craig Patrick for perspective on how the problems at VA all got started and where we go from here. The VA says it's come a long way since the scandal of 2014, and we'll show you how the presidential candidates are responding when we come back.
All right, please like our Facebook page. That's Fox 13's Craig Patrick on Facebook. We've mapped out the presidential candidates' positions on VA reform. And if you've had experiences with Veterans Affairs, good or bad, we would like to hear about it. The candidates say basically we need more transparency and accountability or more resources. But with a soaring national debt, that's a hard sell in Congress. Well, thank you very much for watching. We'll bring you Money, Power, and Politics every Sunday night at 11:30 right here on Fox 13. Take care.